You'll be shocked to discover what the final message of Pope John Paul II is, because it sent ripples of awe and reflection through the Vatican. It's leaving the world to ponder the life, impact, and deep faith of a remarkable spiritual leader. His death was already an event of monumental significance, but his last words stirred the faithful even further, sparking reflections on the mysterious insights he shared in his final days. To truly understand the profound effect of Pope John Paul II's last words, I need to examine his life, his role as a spiritual leader, and the extraordinary legacy he left behind. For over 26 years, from 1978 to 2005, Pope John Paul II led the Catholic Church with unwavering dedication, but his influence extended far beyond the Vatican. He shaped global views on faith, morality, and the sanctity of human life, earning recognition as one of the most influential figures of the 20th century. His resilience, compassion, and advocacy for peace, love, and forgiveness resonated around the world, establishing him as a beacon of hope for millions. But that's not all. Becoming Pope is one of the most significant and revered responsibilities within Christianity. The Pope is not just the leader of the Catholic Church, but also a representative of God's teachings on earth. Pope John Paul II embodied this role with humility, strength, and a deep spiritual commitment. His words, teachings, and actions resonated deeply with believers who saw him as uniquely close to God. His final words have since become a topic of reverence and curiosity, with many wondering if they contained a final message for humanity. Now, let's dig into the parts you may never knew about. Born Karol Józef Wojtyła on May 18, 1920, in the modest town of Wadowice, Poland, Pope John Paul II's life was marked by early loss, hardship, and an unwavering faith that would become the foundation of his life. His mother, Emilia, passed away when he was only 9 years old, an experience that left a profound impact on him. He then lost his older brother, Edmund, a few years later, deepening his experience of grief and loss. Through these challenges, young Karol found comfort in his Catholic faith, which gradually became the foundation of his life and work. Despite the tragedies he endured, Karol was known for his bright spirit and intellectual curiosity. He was an active student with a passion for sports like skiing and swimming, and a love for literature and the arts. As a young man, he participated in community theater and even considered a career as an actor. His talents and interests eventually led him to study literature and drama at Jagiellonian University in Krakow in 1938. However, these pursuits were interrupted by the outbreak of World War II in 1939, when Nazi Germany invaded Poland. The Nazis implemented policies aimed at eradicating Polish culture and intellectualism, closing universities and forcing young men like Karol into labor. But that's not everything. In this dark period, Karol's life took a profound turn toward faith. He felt a spiritual calling and began studying for the priesthood, enrolling in an underground seminary organized by the Archbishop of Krakow. During the horrors of World War II, Karol found a deeper purpose and solace in his studies and devotion to God. His commitment to faith strengthened, and he saw his role in the church as a way to bring hope and resilience to a nation suffering under oppression. By 1946, he was ordained as a priest, officially beginning his journey within the Catholic Church. If you believe in God and Jesus Christ and want to see more videos like this, don't forget to subscribe to the channel by clicking the subscribe button. So let's take a closer look at how he became a rising star in the church. Following his ordination, John Paul II's reputation as a compassionate, intellectual, and devout leader grew quickly. He continued his studies in Rome, earning a doctorate in theology, and upon returning to Poland, he began serving in parishes around Krakow. His dedication, intellect, and spiritual insights quickly caught the attention of the Catholic leadership. In 1958, he was appointed auxiliary bishop of Krakow, and just 6 years later, he was promoted to archbishop, becoming one of the youngest and most influential church leaders in Poland. In the 1960s, the Catholic Church was undergoing a period of transformation due to the Second Vatican Council, which aimed to modernize the Church and address the rapidly changing social, political, and technological landscapes. John Paul II contributed extensively to this council, offering insights that helped shape the Church's adaptation to modern times. He was a key voice in discussions that brought the Church's teachings into dialogue with contemporary issues, such as social justice, human rights, and the nature of faith in an increasingly secular world. His contributions not only established his reputation as a profound thinker, but also cemented his role as a leader of change within the Church. But there's more. In 1967, Pope Paul VI appointed him as a cardinal, solidifying his status as one of the Church's rising stars. Through his early career, John Paul II demonstrated his commitment to his faith and compassion for the people of Poland, especially during challenging times. His dedication to his homeland and his bold, compassionate approach to church leadership would become hallmarks of his papacy. But what happened with a groundbreaking election next will blow your mind. In 1978, after the sudden death of Pope John Paul I, Cardinal Wojtyła was elected pope, taking the name John Paul II. His election was historic and groundbreaking. He was the first non-Italian pope in over 400 years, and one of the youngest popes in modern history. His appointment brought hope and excitement to Catholics around the world, particularly in Poland, where he was celebrated as a symbol of resilience against political oppression. From the beginning of his papacy, John Paul II demonstrated a commitment to bringing the teachings of Christ to people all over the globe. He traveled extensively, visiting over 100 countries during his tenure and connecting with millions of Catholics in person. These journeys were remarkable, not only for their scale, but also for their impact. Through his travels, speeches, and writings, he conveyed a message of love, forgiveness, and peace, urging people to embody these virtues in their daily lives. His outreach extended beyond Catholics, as he built bridges with leaders from other faiths, advocating for interfaith dialogue and understanding. John Paul II emphasized that love and compassion could transcend religious boundaries, making him a figure of unity in an often divided world. But there's also something you need to know about human rights and defender of peace. A defining aspect of Pope John Paul II's leadership was his unwavering support for human rights and dignity. Witnessing global suffering and injustice firsthand, he felt a moral duty to use his influence to advocate for the oppressed and marginalized. His stance on human rights extended to his homeland, Poland, where he played a critical role in inspiring the Polish people to resist communist oppression. His support of the Solidarity movement in Poland was instrumental in fueling the wave of resistance that eventually led to the fall of communism in the country. This was not just a political victory, but a spiritual one, underscoring the power of faith, unity, and resilience. Beyond Poland, Pope John Paul II was vocal about human rights issues worldwide, whether it involved poverty, violence, or political oppression. He spoke out against the injustices he saw, often challenging governments and institutions to act with compassion and integrity. His commitment to human dignity transcended national boundaries and religious differences, reinforcing his role as a global advocate for peace and justice. His influence in the arena of human rights was not merely political, it was deeply spiritual. He viewed every person as a reflection of God's image, deserving of respect and compassion. This belief drove him to address issues such as economic inequality, war, and racial discrimination, emphasizing that the Church had a responsibility to stand with the oppressed. His words inspired millions to fight for justice, uplift the marginalized, and embody Christ's teachings in their own lives. But this shocking twist changed everything. One of the most defining and shocking moments of Pope John Paul II's papacy came on May 13, 1981, when he survived an assassination attempt in St. Peter's Square. A Turkish man named Mehmet Ali Aka shot the Pope during a public gathering, gravely wounding him. The Pope's survival was seen by many as miraculous, and his response to the incident revealed the depth of his commitment to forgiveness. Rather than harbor resentment or anger, John Paul II chose to forgive his would-be assassin. He later visited Aka in prison, offering him words of compassion and forgiveness and praying for his soul. This act of mercy stunned the world and served as a powerful testament to his faith in God's mercy and the transformative power of forgiveness. The assassination attempt could have easily deterred John Paul II from his mission, but instead, it seemed to strengthen his resolve. He continued to serve the Catholic community with even greater conviction, seeing his survival as a sign from God to continue his mission of spreading love, faith, and forgiveness. His example of forgiveness resonated globally, reminding believers and non-believers alike of the redemptive power of mercy. But what happened after that will shock you. As the years passed, Pope John Paul II's health began to deteriorate. In 1992, he underwent surgery to remove a benign tumor, marking the start of ongoing health struggles. Over the following years, he faced multiple health challenges, including injuries that impacted his mobility. Despite these setbacks, he continued to fulfill his responsibilities as Pope, even as his declining health became increasingly apparent. In 2001, it was publicly revealed that he had been diagnosed with Parkinson's disease, a degenerative illness that affected his muscle control and speech. This diagnosis was initially kept private, but as his physical condition worsened, his struggle became visible to the world. Despite his health challenges, he remained deeply committed to his role, continuing to make public appearances and offering blessings to those who gathered to see him. His resilience became a source of inspiration, showing the faithful that suffering and physical limitation could be met with grace, strength, and faith. But it doesn't stop here. In February 2005, Pope John Paul II's health took a turn for the worse when he contracted a respiratory infection. Despite medical treatment, his condition continued to decline, and he eventually underwent a tracheotomy to assist his breathing, a procedure that left him unable to speak. The loss of his voice was a deeply painful moment for the Catholic community, as his words had brought comfort to so many over the years. Even as he struggled physically, his faith remained unbroken, and he continued to bless the faithful from his hospital window using simple hand gestures, moving many to tears. But this shocking moment on his final days changed everything. By late March 2005, it became clear that Pope John Paul II was nearing the end of his life. On March 31st, he attended a private mass in his chapel, experiencing sudden chills and fever. Doctors diagnosed him with a severe urinary tract infection, which led to sepsis, a life-threatening condition. Despite the medical team's efforts, His condition continued to worsen, but it got only worse from here. As news of the Pope's decline spread, thousands of Catholics gathered in St. Peter's Square, praying for their beloved leader. On April 2, 2005, at 9:37 p.m., Pope John Paul II passed away peacefully in his Vatican apartment. His final moments were described as serene. He faced his window, his right hand raised as if waving to the crowd one last time. Witnesses reported that he appeared to be trying to say "Amen" as he took his last breath. Shortly before he passed, he whispered in Polish, "Let me go to the house of the Father." These words have since become a powerful testament to his humility, faith, and acceptance of death. They symbolized his readiness to meet God and his ultimate trust in God's will, resonating deeply with Catholics and people of all faiths around the world. So let's take a closer look at the shocking details. The timing of John Paul II's death, just before Divine Mercy Sunday, carried significant spiritual weight. Divine mercy was a theme close to his heart, and throughout his papacy, he emphasized its importance as a source of healing, forgiveness, and hope. He believed that divine mercy was God's boundless gift of love, accessible to anyone who sought it with sincerity. In establishing Divine Mercy Sunday, he aimed to highlight the power of God's mercy, to bring transformation and healing to individuals and communities alike. For John Paul II, divine mercy was not merely a theological concept, but a reflection of his own faith journey. He saw God's mercy as a lifeline, a reminder that redemption is always within reach, even in the darkest moments. His final words, in many ways, were an echo of this belief, as he surrendered himself into the mercy of God. Now, let's dig into the reflections on the end times you may never knew about. Throughout his life, Pope John Paul II shared reflections on the end times, offering a perspective that was hopeful rather than fearful. He cautioned believers against seeing the end times as purely apocalyptic, instead viewing them as a period of renewal and spiritual transformation. For him, the end times were not just a future event, but a reality that began with Christ's resurrection. His teachings emphasized that believers should live with faith, hope, and an openness to God's love, preparing for an eternal life with God. John Paul II's reflections on the end times urged Catholics to focus not on fear, but on the promise of salvation. He reminded believers that salvation was a present reality, available to all who opened their hearts to God. His teachings inspired people to live with purpose, compassion, and a sense of divine anticipation, viewing each day as an opportunity to grow closer to God. But it doesn't stop here. Pope John Paul II's impact on the Catholic Church and the world is undeniable. His teachings on forgiveness, compassion, and human dignity continue to resonate with people of all faiths, serving as a testament to the transformative power of love and faith. His life, teachings, and final words remind us that true leadership is rooted in humility, kindness, and an unshakable trust in God's love. His last words, "Let me go to the house of the Father," serve as a powerful reminder of his faith and his readiness to embrace eternity. They encapsulate the essence of his life and legacy, inspiring Catholics and Christians around the world to seek peace, embrace forgiveness, and live with faith. Pope John Paul II's legacy calls humanity to reflect on the enduring values of compassion, unity, and service, offering a profound example of how faith can bring hope and healing to a world in need. Through his life and words, Pope John Paul II left a legacy that continues to inspire millions, guiding those who seek to live a life of compassion, service, and peace. His message to the world, embodied in his final words, remains a beacon of hope, reminding us that faith has the power to transcend earthly boundaries and bring us closer to the divine. If you think this video was great, then the video on the right-hand side will leave you in shock for sure.